Yeah, so this kind of makes me sick that now that China has really gotten serious about space exploration, now all of a sudden, if we had any worries about the United States NASA space program to ever have gone to the moon, well they going squash that disbelief now because China is going to the moon and they're going to put astronauts on the moon or whatever they call them in China, China knots. They're going to put them on the moon. So now wait till you hear this guy from NASA, the chief of operations or whatever, saying what we can't let happen. And all I'm saying is the argument ever since the moon landings with Neil Armstrong and all those guys in the 60s and 70s was that there's no need to go back to the moon. Because, you know, the citizens have said, NASA, we kind of are afraid that the moon landing could have been a hoax. So, since we're sending lunar vehicles to Mars and we're orbiting Neptune and all that kind of stuff, since the moon is the closest object to us, why don't we have a presence there since we're the only country who landed human beings on that object in space? And NASA would always say through the 90s and the early 2000s, there's no need to go back. And then they start saying we even forgot how to get there. We destroyed or lost all the blueprints on how we made it to to the moon in the 70s and 60s, and now there's no need to go there. And what I'm trying to say is, when I saw this, I was upset. Listen to this.
Now orbiting the moon, Luna 25 is Russia's first robotic lunar mission in nearly 50 years. Russia never landed cosmonauts on the moon, but within days, Luna will be the first probe to land on the moon's south side, working to confirm the presence of frozen water, which could one day be used for rocket fuel.
Now, I brought up China, but this is about a three-tier race, a three-headed race. U.S., Russia, and China. They haven't said China yet, but we getting there. But we put John Glenn, if that's his name. I'm so rusty on it. But we put the first man in orbit because Russia beat us to putting the first object in space that any human had ever did with Sputnik. The first object to ever go into space was from Russia. We thought we had more time to develop something to put in space, and Russia beat us to it. That looked bad for America trying to make sure people look at us as the best country or the strongest country. To have Russia beat us to space, it really messed up our image. So we had to up them. We couldn't just put a satellite in space. We had to put a human in space. It worked. And the moon hoax, if it is a hoax, the moon landing, it was supposed to be done because Russia was finna get somebody there too and beat us to the moon. So we had to show that we're the ones who could do it. That image really did help America look like a strong country. So Russia has not gone nowhere. They're still aiming for the same goals forever, but China now has entered into the fray.
Fuel.
Стартовой площадкой.
The head of Russia's space agency says the moon could be the launching pad to explore distant planets, including Mars.
Russia has just launched a probe to land on the South Pole.
Okay, now this is the guy I'm talking about. This is what made me want to comment on this. Listen to him.
NASA Chief Bill Nelson says that ice is why the U.S. plans to land Artemis astronauts in 2025. But China is also aiming for the pole.
Told you. Three-tier race. You got, look at my clicker. You got you got China here with the stars and the red. You got USA in the middle here, Star Spangled Banner. And then you got the red, white, and blue stripes of Russia right here, formerly the Soviet Union.
I don't want China to get to the South Pole first.
This is why I made this. This is why I'm commenting. Did you hear what he just said? Let me rewind it for you. He does not want China to beat us there. As if it's like we're trying to get the pretty girl. But look at why he says he doesn't want China to get there. This is strong. This is like, I think China might low-key should be offended by this. What do you think? Hold on. But listen to what he say.
The pole.
I don't want China to get to the South Pole first with humans and then say, this is ours.
So what made me want to say something about this is, so is that what we do as the United States? He doesn't want China to get there first and then set up shop and be like, all the rest of you motherfuckers got to ask us permission to come here. Because since we got here first, we run this. Because remember, there's supposed to be a United States flag, red, white, and blue with 50 stars on the moon right now. And I used to say my whole life, that was brash and bold in a motherfucker. We actually got there and made it ours. That's strong. We actually put a flag on there to say, anybody else who lands here, the first thing you're going to see if you land on the moon is you're going to see a United States flag. So if you're from Nigeria and you land there, you already have the mental comprehension that if you think you finna go up there and just pull out a lawn chair and kick back on the moon, you better ask NASA first. That imagery is a motherfucker. So it sounds like he's saying China can do the same thing, but if China do it, it's bad. I kind of low-key would be offended if I was Chinese. Hey, Finesse 2 Times got the song of the year, right? It's okay when they do it. It's a problem when I do it.
Stay out.
Is this starting to feel...
Then say, this is ours. Stay out. And then say, this is ours. Stay out. And to get to the...
China is also aiming for the pole.
I don't want China to get to the South Pole first with humans and then say, this is ours. Stay out.
Is this starting to feel real?
That's real. That's it. It's starting to feel very, very real.
At the Kennedy Space Center, the Artemis II astronauts, the first crew who will orbit the moon since Apollo, have now inspected the Orion spaceship that will take them there next year.
We're all smiles, of course. It's pretty inspiring moment.
NASA's goal, similar to what Russia and China are planning. Ultimately, NASA wants to create an Artemis base camp on the moon and use that to go to Mars.
Tom, I think the space race is really between us and China, and we need to protect the interest of the international community.
Nelson and...
Wow. Now what, should Russia feel some type of way now? Wow. Should Russia feel like... Should Russia feel like... What do we, chop liver? Is Russia and China, aren't they comrades? Communist friends? That's interesting that he would feel that way. He feels like the race is him and China, us and China, and we got to beat them there. It sounds like the moon race against Russia back in the 60s.
Insists the U.S. would never lock out others, but the new space race.
Okay, so
Unity.
he's saying the U.S. would never do people like that. This what this reporter is saying. I ain't heard this dude say it, but the reporter says he said it. Hold on. So his criticism to China getting there first and locking out the U.S. is because they that type of way. So what if China got there second and still said you can't come? Are you saying because we get there first that we can say you got us fucked up? What I'm trying to say is that mentality that Russia and China and all them took back in the 60s when America landed on the moon was wrong on their part. Yes, we were wrong for putting that flag there, acting like we own the moon. And my point is, so what? We beat you there. Still get there yourself to see what we saw. You just gave up, like, damn, America beat us to the moon, so we're not gonna go. And right now, here we are, 50 years, 60 years later, talking about China's gonna land something on the south side of it, at the south pole of the moon, a part that the no human has ever reached. So right then and there, the flag is on the side facing Earth. They finna go on the other side. So that just shows that they should have never gave up in the first place just because America made it there first. So that's what I'm saying. I'm not sure if this is cool what he's saying, because when we want to get there first before China gets there so that China can't lock us out. What I'm saying is China wasn't going to be able to lock us out anyway. Who the fuck is China to say the moon is theirs? Just like who the fuck was America to say the moon was ours? Do you get my point?
China. And we need to protect the interest of the international community.
Nelson insists the U.S. would never lock out others, but
he insists the U.S. would never lock out others.
Is really between
that to go to Mars.
Tom, I think the space race is really between us and China, and we need to protect the interest of the international community.
Nelson insists the U.S. would never lock out others, but the new space race is accelerating. Tom Costello, NBC News at the Kennedy Space Center.
So, I thought that was interesting. Politics, man. What can you say? What can you say? But I'm just saying, what's good for one, it should be good for another. And anyway, as I close this out, I promise I'm done, y'all. But once again, if you're that worried now, why did you neglect moon developments throughout all these decades? Why didn't you go there and develop the stuff you finna do now, making a base up there, exploring the South Pole because you want to beat China there? You could have already beat them there in the 80s and 90s. They weren't even trying to do that. But you sat there and said, we proved our point. They know what's up. And they, after a while, they said, wait a minute. They stopped going to the moon? Oh, well, I'm just going to go up there. So, you know, it's just funny how America's panties is in a bunch because China is trying to get there. Peace.